Hey guys, Cam at Inky Knuckles coming at you for the Saturday Night Art Show. This week we don't have any artists on, but we do have a very special guest. James Siegel is going to show us some pretty cool stuff from his amazing collection, and it's going to be collector focused tonight. So if you're tuning in, hit us up with some questions. Join in on the conversation. Tonight's theme is just life as a collector, because you've got three collectors to rant away with, and some pretty awesome collections to pick from. I'm speaking of the other two guys, not so much me. But without further ado, Mr. Harry McSplash Page, Ryan Sherwood, how you doing, buddy?
Yep, not too bad. How are you?
Good.
Do we have anybody else watching right now?
Yeah, 6 people showed up.
No way.
Yeah.
And we don't count?
No, so 8.
Oh.
Yeah.
Beauty.
Yeah. And Stefan, he's here.
Beauty. Okay.
Man,
yeah. There he is. Yeah.
Yeah, so how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We finally got a nice day, so
nice.
We're out of the winter, and we'll see what it's like. Life is like trying to social distance in real world, I guess.
Yeah. We're turning a corner.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think I'm pretty tired today because there was that calf live con event.
Yeah.
So it was an early morning because it started 10 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. here, and it's Saturday. So
well, and save that. We'll tackle that a little bit because I'm sure James might have some stuff to say as well. So let's bring Mr. James. Is it Siegel, James? I never even asked you that.
Yeah, it's Siegel.
Siegel. Steven's brother.
Yep.
Yeah, he puts the I in Steven Seagal.
They don't like to claim anymore. Ever since he went to Russia. So, I'm actually kind of intimidated. Usually everyone on this show has this massive facial hair, and I'm just still growing it in like I'm in puberty. But
yeah, you don't have to be so nervous. Take off your lag filter. Quit blurring your face like Elizabeth Taylor.
How you doing, James? You're this week's special guest. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that special, but I really appreciate it, man. Ryan's asked me to jump on here, and I watch your guys' show every Saturday. So this is my debut on the internet. I always figured it would be some type of Channel 9 news show about a drunk guy downtown. So
yeah, you're Whoopi Goldberg.
We're doing something non-PC, but we'll see.
No, it's not going to go well.
So
awesome. Well, welcome. We're going to be taking a look at some stuff from your collection, which I'm very excited about. We may have to just double check your camera.
No, he is underwater.
Oh, does it look good?
If you just hit cam/mic at the bottom there, James, see if you're just on the highest res.
No, I am not. Is that better?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out as we go.
We're blurring it out so you can share all of your very controversial opinions, and nobody will know who you are.
I mean, wow. Is the audio messed up, or is it the?
No, audio's good.
You just kind of blurry.
Let's see if we do this.
Actually,
you're there.
Let me do one more thing.
No, you're clear now.
Yeah, you're good now.
Yes. Rub the rib sauce off the camera.
Oklahoma, man.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was thinking that you would be a perfect guest to kind of complement kind of all of the angles around, because I like to feel that we're kind of a new guard in a kind of a corner area that's an up and comer that's making waves, get some labels, and stirs the shit. So I think your story is one of the best. You have one of the best original art deals of all time that I like to hear about. And you found a passion, you went with it, you developed these relationships. tell us your background. Tell us what got you into original art. Tell us what got you into the stuff that you collect, and tell us kind of your thoughts around the hobby and how you do things. Because I think you do it probably the best.
That's a high bar.
I just lied. I lied.
One comment really quick. I see that Dylan made a comment about a hairy splash page.
Yeah.
I have not had that experience. I've never had hair.
Well,
yet. So
that's a very good way to authenticate that the artist did do it. And I do want to talk about something where there was a controversy about, did the artist actually do the piece? So a hairy splash page is provenance. So I think Dylan should relax.
Gotcha. Even I'm not in witness protection. I don't care if I'm recognized. So really quick. So I got an original art. I read comics as a kid, of course. I think most of us did. I mean, not to do rag to riches or anything like that. Of course, economically, maybe our family wasn't that well off growing up. So most of the comics, weren't actually purchased; they were borrowed, or when I could buy one. So I never read full runs. I never read start to finish on anything. It was always kind of pick and choose, but mostly focused on Marvel, mostly focused on XMen, and then of course all the cartoons, right? Because they're free. You get home, you can watch those in the afternoon. But after, I think a lot of people, especially when it came to the late '90s, went to college and everything, and I kind of gave up, reading comics. And I never collected as a kid. Of course, barely afford the floppies, can barely afford to collect. But I was able to, make my way through life, and then
So was this organic? Was this just on your own, or did you have like a brother or your dad or anybody else that's like, let's go steal some floppies because we can't collect?
Again, I don't want to be recognized as Steven said. No, a lot of it was borrowed from kids in school.
Gotcha.
Borrowed from friends. Bought an issue here and there. The two issues I remember specifically that I paid for that I enjoyed. Well, three. One was Adam Kubert's run. I read Wolverine 90, 3, Wolverine 90, and 75, where he lost his adamantium, and of course the X-Men equivalent, X-Men 25 by Andy. So those I remember reading as a kid, and then there was this is the images in my mind too. It's I read an X-Men comic where Onslaught punched Juggernaut, across Canada and into New York. And, just picked it up right there. Barely knew the characters except for the TV show. But I was like, dude punched another dude across the world. So that image always, and that panel always stuck in my mind. But, went to school and everything, and kind of never read comics. And then on a whim, a person recommended a comic called Chew. He said, hey, read this. This is the comic for people that, haven't really read comics.
So how old were you at this time? Were you working? Were you in school?
Oh, man, this was when I was 35. I mean, it's been a decade.
So 20 years ago.
No. So it was probably about 6-7 years ago. Well, about 5.
4 years in the future, buddy. 4 years in the future.
4 years in the future. So I gave it a shot, man. Probably started. It was already about 15 issues into the run. Bought the first 3 trades, and really enjoyed the hell out of it. And then actually bought it on a monthly basis. First time I've ever done that for any comic book whatsoever.
Wow.
So,
and no other collecting at that point? Was this a standalone thing?
Didn't.
Yeah. So you're choosing.
I was collecting Transformers or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. We all know
and what happened was moved in the house and everything. Well, not yet, but I went online to look up the artist, Rob Gilroy. And so I'm on his website, and I click on this thing that says original art. I'm like, what the hell is original art? And so I click on it, and he's actually selling pages he drew that go into the comic, right? And that blew my damn mind that you could buy the actual pages the artist created. So I bought 2 pages, and they were like $175. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Who spends
at this point
$100?
Because you're wildly successful at this point, you're not hit your stride.
Yeah, I'm doing well. So, a lot of luck, a lot of perseverance. But yeah, we're doing okay. So, but I buy these 2 pages thinking, comic books are how much and slab comic books are how much, but $175. And so I got them in, and the first thing I noticed, again, no clue what original art was, is that these things are 11 by 17. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's huge. I can see all the details. This is amazing. And then, looking at the comic and everything, comparing it back and forth, and interacted with him and his wife, and it was just a really, really good experience. So I was
And
like,
like at this point, to dedicate your own time to go pick it up and sacrifice another pair of like True Religion jeans, like $175 isn't crazy at this point. You're like, you're processing like, I can get a 1 of 1 for $175. Like I could take my whole family to the Sizzler and only get halfway through the bill for that, right?
Man, I haven't been to Sizzler in a long time. Make yourself some OA so I can go.
I'll take you.
But what's funny, I'll show you the pages. So here's my first original art ever. So let's see.
You got these pages. You got to know Rob and his wife.
April, yeah. Just via email from Dylan. How's that coming in? Can you see it?
About as well as your face, so not well.
Yeah, that's better.
That's better. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope, not good.
Oh,
That's
there
better. Yeah, there you
go. So this is Chew pages 17 and Chew number 32, page 18. Right? So
wow.
Again, panel pages, $175. If you saw this on CAF, you would just click right on through.
Yeah.
What got me on these pages, and the reason I actually looked up the artist and bought them, is this is the first time, if you guys are familiar with Chew, in the very few first 30 issues, Tony is basically a lapdog to his boss. He gets ridden by his boss. His boss treats him like absolute garbage. I don't know if I can cuss on the show. Absolute garbage.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, fair enough. So this is the moment. I don't know if you can kind of see it or if I need to hold it closer. But he actually goes ape shit and actually takes control. And I was like,
in
my life.
And this was probably part and parcel of how you were feeling in life at that point too, right?
Yeah, I've always had good bosses, but I just like the fact that we had somebody actually take control of his life and his career, and tell the man, to go fuck off. So there you go. So I got these 2 pages again, just from Chew, and I came in. They were larger, they were incredible, and so I'm like, okay, this original art is kind of a thing. And so I got on his mailing list, and then I won't show this one. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy something else. And I bought the cover for Samurai Jack #1. It's Samurai Jack, right?
Nice.
That Gilroy did. And dude, that was $600 for that cover. I'm out of my damn mind spending some artwork. And so, bought that cover, and I was in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and then moved to here back home to Oklahoma. Had this house with a bunch of blank walls. I'm like, I need to cover it with something. And so I was like, you know what? Art's pretty damn cool. And let me go buy some pieces to cover it with the walls. And that's what started the addiction.
Yeah.
Wanting to cover my walls with pretty pictures. And
so you go ahead.
No,
so you were all on your own. Like you found this just because you liked it, and you randomly chose Chew and you found it. So how did you? So from there, like in Oklahoma, you got a con there. Were you going? You weren't doing cons or anything like that. Like how did you start your networking?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. So
no problem, James.
Yeah, that's funny, huh? No, I've only actually been to 2 cons ever. But what happened was, I think like a lot of new collectors, internet searching is what you start out with. And one of the first sites I bet you everyone on this listening or everyone's been a new collector have gone to is like the CGC Farms, right? Because I know, right? But you put in original art and you Google search, and especially 3-4 years ago, that's what you found. And so I started trying to interact there. It was hit and miss. I think
that's where murder hornets were invented.
Yeah. I think they still post there. But I mean, a lot of it, interacting with those guys, and what would happen is, I throw some messages out there, and I mean, some were helpful that were there, some not so much helpful, because I think they take a different approach to the newbie collectors. And no offense, I probably asked some really dumbass questions too, right? And relatively speaking, looking back, but people kind of saw my posts and reached out to me via private message that says, "Hey, want to talk about this? Want to talk about that?" You know him, Ryan, Rizby.
Yep. Yeah.
First guy
Awesome guy.
I talked to on original art about 3 years ago, and I've never met him in person, but I consider him one of my really, really good friends just from the amount of interaction and talking.
And it's tough to make friends in your 40s. Like there's some emotional decisions that you're making, and you don't really have a lot of people to turn to in your actual life. So you're putting a lot of trust and reliance on people you barely know.
Well, and you guys, probably have a similar experience. There's no GPA analysis for what art's worth, right? You can't look it up and see what a 9.8, Adam Kubert XMen page is worth. So a lot of it's just gut and making poor decisions, or making, very, very cautious decisions. I think me and Ryan, and I'm not sure about you, Cam, did spend a whole bunch of money and buy a whole bunch of stuff, and found out we overpaid for most of it.
Yep.
And then got it kind of
the newbie label. Yeah.
But I'll show a couple more pages too.
Yeah, let's actually. Yeah, I want to see this Chew stuff before we talk about what we hate.
James, just want to touch on this quick. You brought up CGC Forum was one of your primary resources, and for me, it was actually Statue Forum was the primary thing. And Statue Forum doesn't have as wide of a reach, but the people in it, I feel like are extremely helpful. And I had a chat with Ron Garney this week, and he brought up Statue Forum out of nowhere. And I haven't been on it, but that was, I think, for whatever reason, I found Statue Forum before I found CGC boards. And I
think that's a different, I think that goes with the comic collecting and statue. You can get a collaborative thing with that because there are more than one. Like when you have a one of a kind thing, it's like statues, comics, slab comics. You can't afford to be collaborative, where it's fucking cutthroat with original.
Well, and yeah, that's very true. It was odd with Statue Forum because the original art section in there was it was my second resource after CAF. Every day I checked CAF, then I checked Statue Forum, and even the Chicago crew that we're such good friends with, Octavio, Charles, Josh isn't out there, but David, those guys, all met them through Statue Forum. So
how long ago was that?
2010, I think. So
when was this for you, James? Like when did you start?
Well, in the CGC, about 2016, 2017.
Do you feel like there's? Go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned Statue Forum. I mentioned on the CGC side. Again, I mean, old time collectors and some good people, but that Jay Giant guy who does a lot of the Statue Forum and on the CGC, he was one of the ones that if I pinged him on a DM or something like that, was just really, really cool to talk to from an old collector perspective.
Well, the Gamma Bros, as we like to call them, on Statue Forum, and a bunch on both. They're a really good group of guys. Octavio, Dave, TC, Steven. I'm missing a few. There's like 6 of them. But they always called themselves the Gamma Bros, and they all had Hulk-related monikers. And I don't know what it is about the Hulk guys. They're all really good guys.
Well,
even if they cheer for the White Sox.
That's right. Octavio.
The one guy in the Statue Forum who's obsessed with Juggernaut. He's pretty cool too. So he's opposite. I guess they like the muscle bound dudes.
I think that they're
But I'll go. So when Ryan asked me to join, I've got a lot of art from the Big Two. I'll share a little bit of that. But he asked me to kind of show, since Chew was what got me in, kind of the evolution of my Chew collecting. If you guys haven't read the comic, It's Eisner Award winning. I'm doing a shout out to Rob and John Lehman, New York Times best-selling, and it's fantastic. And this is not my original idea. I've heard it from different collectors, different experts in the industry. But Chew was probably the comic that solidified Image Comics as a birthplace for independent comics. Because up until that time, the only successful Image comics were the original founders, the Jim Lees, the Lee Fields, the Silvestris. Robert Kirkman came in, of course, and he had The Walking Dead. But all those people that were trying to do their independent comics up until that point had very, very mild success. And then Chew came in, and this was about a detective, animal cop, buddy cop drama with chicken
Buddy
fights.
cops. That's why Cam loves it.
With like chicken plagues and stuff, and it became a solid. I'm not going to say set the world on fire, but it was a solid hit for Image, and it showed that John Lehman, who was a editor and did some comics but really wasn't a known name, and Rob Gilroy, who never did anything up until Chew, so as long as you have good story, good art, you can make it at Image Comics. And so it was a big, inflection point, and it was used to sell Image as a concept to a lot of the collectors that were out there.
Well, and it's funny you say that, James, because I remember reading articles too about that shift, and Chew was at the forefront of that. And I even know, just as a comic collector, because I was just reading comics then, I can't remember, but I think I was just getting into art. But Chew and Sweet Tooth were the top of my pull list every week. It was those two, or every month. Those are the two I reached for ahead of anything else. And
just good read, man.
It was new. That was a new concept. That was so far out of right field, but it still had things that felt familiar. You're like, that I guess makes sense, and it's funny, but it's still a mystery, and it checks all the boxes of what you're looking for. At the same time, it's the idea is phenomenal. It's so original.
Yeah.
I'm out there eating bird poop, seeing if I can get somebody's memory still. I think that it might be real science.
So I'll show a couple more pieces from my Chew collection. So this, there wasn't too many full panel double splashes.
That's amazing.
But this is Tony Chew and his arch nemesis, the Collector, staring each other down over a dinner table. So pieces.
Could this be you and Rob? Were you pulling all of this art from his clutches?
Well, a lot of it I have from Rob. This was actually through a private collector who already purchased from Rob.
That's awesome. That's a standout image of two key characters. And that's a great representation of that story.
The nice part about the Chew art, I've got pieces, of course, that I've spent multiple euros on, right? But this stuff is still very affordable. So there's still books. If you guys like the Image books or the Aftershock or the Dynamite comics or anything like that, we always talk about how expensive art is. But most of the time, the art from those things, it's very affordable and absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, again, you balance it on future investment potential. When you start doing all that kind of stuff, you lose a little bit of the magic of the hobby. You have to take it into account.
That'll be a topic that'll be interesting. I'd like to talk about later is investing in stuff because it's cheap. Anyway,
go through just a couple more real quick. So this is just another splash. I picked this up for Rob, and I picked this up recently from Rob. The Chew 44 page 4, just kind of a cool splash, all the characters. You can kind of see the humor. The guy lost his arm. He actually gets a robotic crab claw replacement, so just know he ain't dead. But I picked this up probably about 2 months ago for $300.
No way.
So,
still, right?
Yeah,
this is on the New York Times bestseller, and you're still getting pieces for that.
Yeah. And that's on his website, too, what I picked up. So, the art's still really affordable. I'll go through these two real quick. So these are, there it is. Chop his arm off. So these ones, actually Ryan helped me out as far as locating. So they're panel pages, but what's cool about this one is this is actually from Chew 1. So the first comic that came out in 2009, you know, most of the pages from that comic are either still in Rob's possession or given to the colorist, given to John Layman, given to people in Image. So there's many pages from the first issue.
If I knew that, I would totally have held you over the barrel.
I don't know. We're getting some from this way. There you go. Some light. So it's toward the end of the issue. What happened within to get to this point is Tony Chew. So there was a cook at this speakeasy chicken joint. He cut his finger and blood went into the soup. Tony happened to eat the soup and found out this guy's a serial killer. And so he chases him because, all right, just to kind of explain the concept. When the main character eats anything, he gets psychic visions of whatever he eats.
What do they call that? Like they come up with a scientific name.
Yeah, dude, I know. It's long.
You're not a fan. You didn't know you're not a fan.
I know it's a cyborg, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I'll Google it for you, buddy.
Thanks. There you go. And so what happens is, like he eats a carrot, you can see how the carrot grows. And if he, or if he eats a cow, he can see how the cow grew up and how the cow was slaughtered. And so he basically what happens if he goes across a murder victim, and if he takes a bite of that murder victim, you see how that person was killed. So that's
Cibopath?
Yeah, there it is.
Chibopath?
Hey, thanks, Reba.
Siegel path?
So, and I'll, there's some other things outside of Chew that I want to show, but here is my, all right, guys. Oh, hey, Reba, if you're only starting Chew, don't look at this next one.
Yeah, close your eyes.
Actually, you can look. I'll show you half, then I'll tell you when to look away.
So the best part about this is you're going to tell everyone it's a spoiler, and they don't know it's a spoiler.
I know, right? So this is probably, you know, it's not my most expensive pieces, but the piece that's most personal to me.
Yeah.
This is the cover for Chew 1. So wow. I was able, it took years of pestering Rob to get him to sell me this. Years of pestering him. And finally, he got to the point where he was starting a new book. And I'll talk about that book in a second, just to, you know, throw a commercial for him. And he said he'd let it go so he can kind of fund his new venture.
So question for you is, do you think that he let that go because of the relationship you had with him?
He let it go to me
yes.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not worried about spoilers? Okay, I'll show the whole thing. So I actually have this framed. This is the cover to the first issue. Look at me peeking around. And this is the last page to the last issue. So I was able to get the bookmarks of the entire, or the bookends of the entire series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
That is nuts. I didn't realize that's what that was.
And how long is that journey to get those two pieces throughout?
Well, I actually got this, it's backwards. I got the last page to the last book first. And, you know, as soon as Chew 60 came out, and I bought a lot of art from Rob, but not just so much art. You know, when a new issue would come out, or, you know, a new project announcement, or if I saw it, I just shoot him an email or a note. It says, hey, I caught that, you know, really enjoyed it. You know, just keep up the good work, you know, maybe stalking them a little bit. Not really, but you might think so. So I kind of built a relationship. If you've got an artist that they're receptive to communication and you like their work, you know, I mean, it doesn't hurt to, you know, another one is Ryan Stegman. You know,
that is a key relationship.
Yeah. I'd shoot Stegman an email, a note every now and then, you know, hey, you know, top the renew your vows, man, you're killing it. Or
here's a dick pic.
So, yeah, look at this one for the whole series.
Wow, that is really cool.
That is
Bookend-
like for being your favorite series. I can't. Can you think of something better? Cam?
No, I've never even, other than owning a full issue, I've never seen that before. The
A
actual
whole run.
bookend.
Yeah.
No, I didn't realize that, James. I had no idea.
Gotcha.
So that is incredible.
He's
Hey,
cooler than you thought, isn't he?
Hey, one thing, we kind of talked about before we jumped on, we're talking about, image art or art, not on the big two, but if you guys that are watching, have a really nice image or non-big two piece of art in your calf gallery or something like that, and throw the link in the chat, and we'll pull it up and we'll talk about it as well. We'd love to see what you guys have as well.
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons that people are following their passions. That you followed your passion, and because this was personal and you weren't influenced at all by what the market was doing, that's why this stuff doesn't have these crazy prices, right? So I think that knowing that, pure blood collectors value this stuff just as much as the stuff that costs the 5 figures is an important message to relay. Like, the stuff of value, it should be stuff that means something to you too, right?
I agree. Absolutely agree. And Dylan, I will tell you, you said you're paranoid about pestering artists. My process is, buy a couple pieces, maybe do a commission. A commission is a way for that artist to kind of interact with you personally, and you'll flush out their personality really quickly if there's someone that you can have a dialogue with, or if someone just sees you as a business transaction.
If you are always asking for something, that's not a relationship, right? Like, if you want to, like, your relationship with Rob is just not reaching out anytime you need something from him, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are real people. Like, you talk to them about real stuff. That's a true relationship. You're not pestering them when you ask them, how are your wife and kids?
Exactly. I will tell you this, if you go check out, again, this is unsolicited, I'm not getting paid, but if you look at Rob Gilroy's website, robgilroy.com, he just did a recent blog entry that actually talked about how being in the comics industry almost killed him, and how he's recovered and reset. And it was extremely personal. And so it's something to check out.
Like, it's got to be one of the loneliest professions out there, unless you're in a studio, and even then there's a level of competition, right? Like, it's like, to know that you can do your work and develop true relationships is a pretty important thing. And I think that that's some of the reason why we've been able to get some of the pieces that we've been getting.
I think a lot of these artists you mentioned, I think they just realize they're under quarantine because they never leave the house anyway.
Yeah,
So,
right. And they're in a worse spot because all the people that have to go out and do their regular lives are all staying in with them. So they're actually getting over socialized.
I will say, you mentioned, I guess, Odila, the gags that Rob puts in there. He's infamous on that. I mean, you read an issue 2 or 3 times because of all the inside jokes, and they're
Easter eggs everywhere. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, with Rob's personality in person, he's such a quiet, humble, like, pleasant guy. And with Lehman, I have never met John Lehman, but I know he's got he's
opinionated.
What's that?
I'm sorry, he's opinionated.
Yeah, and so to meet Rob, I was expecting this really, like, sarcastic, like, I was
gregarious
expecting
guy.
the pages of Chew in Rob, but he's like one of the nicest guys I've ever met at a con. It was such a shocker for me.
Well, we've been finding out that a lot of people are really good at drawing or doing the opposite of how they actually are. Like, you look at, like, Gerardo talking about, it's the meanest, baddest, most violent thing you've ever seen. And the guy, he would try to illustrate you new hair if you were bald.
Yep. He go out of his way to pet every puppy, right?
Yeah.
So, just a couple more for Rob, and then I just have a couple more pieces I'll share, and then I'll turn over to you guys. But just to this piece right here. There you go. So this is his new series, Farmhand. Just to kind of tell you about artists' relationships and everything. It's the light.
Oh, did you make that sound, or did it do that on its own?
There you go. Everything is opposite how you move. Anyway, so this piece was actually drawn for when Rob pitched Farmhand to the Image Expo to announcing the series. And so he was selling a couple of these pieces. This is before the comic ever came out. And I bought you one and everything from him. I was like, hey, I'd still like to support you. Let's make a deal on these couple pieces. So I actually bought the first Farmhand original art that he had released. And then he turned around and made this image and another one I have, covers, variant covers for the #1 issue.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got to pick up some promo pieces, pretty inexpensive, that ended up being #1 covers for a series he's doing. And then, of course, the series, if you guys don't know, is announced to be, it was picked up by AMC. They actually create a TV show on it. I mean, they're buying everything to create TV shows nowadays, but just to kind of, we mentioned Chew, and it's a cannibal cop detective eating story. Farmhand is about a guy who plants organs and limbs in a farm field to harvest for transplants. Like he can grow an arm or grow an eye or grow a heart. And if you need a heart transplant, he puts that in you and it takes over. So it's again, and one of these concepts where it's like nothing else in comics. And Rob's actually writing and drawing this series. So this is his own creation. But it's kind of, you always have the Marvel superheroes, which I absolutely love. But going with a lot of those independent comic books, you see a lot of, kind of stories that you just don't even think about.
That's great. Yeah, like that's a creative mind that you hope stays successful, because just kind of doing the same old tropes all over the place and being static and stale, it's nice to see like a smart, clever, funny story and art get success.
I would say that bootlegging is a habit. If you have a link to your calf, we'd love to pull up your snow glass work.
Snow glass apples.
That's Dan. Bootlegging is Dan.
I just got 3 more, and then you guys can ask whatever you want. This is my last Rob piece I'll show you. Again, random, but this is one of the first ones I framed to hang on my wall. This is where he drew a cover for Marvel, and Marvel did a bunch of Venom Eyes covers. If you Venom Eyes everything, but he did Venom Eyes Thanos. So it's
big two.
If you can pull up all the people on, there's a bunch of dead superheroes, and Captain America is actually resting his head on Hulk's butt.
And the way that Rob draws it, like tongue in cheek, like that's even better than all this generic Venom Eyes stuff. Like it's almost like a perfect.
I love and he uses the old school costume for Luke Cage. So.
And you got this from him as well, personally?
Yeah. This is the most expensive cover I bought at that time for $1,400.
Oh my God, things have changed.
I know, right? One bit of trivia. You guys are familiar with Venom, right? The Venomized version of Gwen Stacy and the alternate Spider-Verse.
Are we familiar?
You are familiar.
Sort of. Like, I get the concept. Like it's
you
mash them up. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gwen Stacy, from the Spider-Verse, she's had her long running comic line. I don't know if it's I think it's still going. But recently she got bonded with the Venom symbiote in her universe and became Venom, and that was there for a while. Right. It was a spec book for a while too. So as the original rounds of Venomized covers before this Thanos, Rob actually did Venomized Gwen Stacy. So he actually did the cover for first Venom before Venom was a thing.
So like the concept piece.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. All right.
That's awesome.
Can you show a couple more or what questions you guys have?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you don't get to see this stuff other than just like a generic scan. So
yeah.
One thing I was going to say about if anyone was checking out Calf Live today, the Venomized Mary Jane cover.
Yeah. They Venomized the decimal.
Yeah.
Have you ever checked out what that book goes for? Like I don't do slab comics. I've got.
Is that a true price?
No, $50K.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the actual comic and like 9.8 or something. I don't know, it's like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
What
Good
the?
Lord.
You know, right?
Like how
It's
many hairs are inside? Like how hairy are those splash pages?
Well, our CGC guy or our comic variant guy, Ryan, I don't know if he's on here today, but he should chime in on that. Yeah, because I thought there was a decimal missing there. I absolutely did. That was like the Capullo Batman #1 cover sold
Yeah,
for
it was
50
$50K. So you're saying that was a true price. We thought that somebody got a little trigger happy and forgot to put in.
I think it's a little bit of a shock price, but I don't think the guy would sell it. I don't know, for less than 30, 35, 40K.
Oh.
Is it worth it? I don't think so.
Is he a newbie?
No,
He's a good artist for sure, Joe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, just the spec book in the comic collecting, that is like one of the top variant covers of modern all time.
That is really interesting to me.
Yeah. Look up, if you go to this CGC Farms, but don't go in the original art section, and you go to the modern comics and you look at top variants, they've got, people talking about them. That's always in the top 5, if not top 3.
That's especially interesting because I wonder if that's kind of the transition that we've been talking about. Are those slab guys starting to come into original art?
Yeah.
And is that the stuff that they value? Right? Like it's what people are willing to pay. Like I think that's
what drove a lot of the Del Auto market.
You think so?
His variants, or slab variants, are always really, really hot, and then those people that go he's a gorgeous artist as far as what he does.
And that's the thing. Like he's an Italian. Like he's got the talent to kind of back up prices. I feel right.
Yeah.
Or like Mary Jane Venom for $50,000.
It's based on the context around the comic, not the actual art of the artist.
Oh, I wonder if that's a shot across the bow for the newbies with the old guard.
That's a guy just
conspiracy theory. Okay, fair enough. That's okay too.
50K puts you in like, there's so much you could buy for 50K.
You get history for 50K.
Yeah, from the biggest name.
I didn't even know about this book at all. I don't even know anything about it.
Look it up on eBay, man. Yeah, if it's for sale, it'll shock the hell out of you what the eBay.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
Learn something new every day.
Go ahead. I said the bootleg. I'll check out your faithless covers. I'll just make sure my kids aren't in the room.
So this point below is something I want to talk about. So they're the old guard versus the newbies, the big swinging dicks, stuff like that. So a lot of the old stuff was bought when it was cheap and it's being carried through to current day market, right?
Yeah.
So those prices are set by the old guard. And they're talking about how the newbies are overpaying for stuff, I guess, but they're the ones setting the price.
Yeah.
But if the BSD, the big swinging dick, comes in and buys it, he's a big swinging dick and just does what he wants. So the relationship between the old guard and the new wave coming in, I think, is really going to affect the collecting market, right? Like the fact that there's probably more people considering buying that Venom Eyes Mary Jane than the giant size XMen #2 would probably blow their minds.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to buy that at 50K, but I mean, at least knowing what it is.
The fact that you could actually give a rational reason why that price was set is enough.
That's fair. I know, old collectors versus new collectors. I mean, I think the hobby has, breadth enough, to kind of encompass everyone. But I do know, when people buy a lot of modern artists and, they get scoffed at for purchasing those modern artists. But, it also comes down to, you're not going to get, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you're going to get, a 10,000% ROI in anything you buy today for the next, 5-10 years. So those days of buying a $300, go page and now selling for $60,000,
I don't. Yeah, and I don't think that that's what they were thinking when they got it. But I don't know. Like, do you feel like they are euthanizing themselves? I don't even know what the word is, by not kind of try to bring in the newer collectors, like being labeled as newbies and disregarded, and they're dumb, and we can take advantage of them. Like, do you find that I got some relationships with some BSDs and some big time collectors, because I think that it's important to kind of develop relationships with newer collectors.
Yeah.
Have you found, like, that CGC forum thing that you brought up? That's a perfect example of the least welcoming place on the planet.
It's tough. It's almost like an initiation into fraternity to an extent. Now, I don't like to talk about generalizations of generations, but there's quite a bit of that. And again, you have, like, I mentioned that Jade Giant guy. And I don't even know who he is, or Dave W. or something. Dickie Dick. He does the kind of the analysis after auctions. Like, he was awesome, to reach out to. So there's definitely people willing to reach out. But there's also a lot of people, like, if you jump in and make a comment, it gets dismissed or not even recognized. You got to at least either keep it up and pound away at the forum. For what return, I don't know. I think you see a lot of people now migrating to different forms of media, social media. A lot of Facebook groups. I mean, I don't know how many art collector Facebook groups. That I'm a part of now. Instagram groups, forums like this, where YouTube Live. So I think
strippers for art groups. Yeah, you're in a lot.
Also, James, just interrupt for a second. Dave Duggan is he's J Giant Comic Art. He's Joe Bennett's rep. Just as an FYI, that's that Dave. He's a really good dude. I hung out with him at Fan Expo. He's one of the best. But just as an aside, the Dave W. J Giant is Joe Bennett's rep.
Same guy? No.
So did you go on the Cap Live thing today?
I mean, as the or the art show?
Yeah, the online con. Did you go, Cam? Did you attend?
I went on this.
Did you go through? Yeah, browse through it or whatever. Yeah.
I just perused through what was available. It was a little daunting.
What did you think?
It was cool that some new stuff was being dropped. Some commission lists were opening, but it was just it was probably just too overwhelming for me. I didn't have a lot of time this morning to look through it. I think if I had more time today, I probably would have dove in deeper. But also not really looking to buy anything right now, so it. That alone was kind of like, it was kind of indifferent.
Did you feel like it was stark lines of the same thing over and over? Like, if you're an old boy, like, did you see anybody that was kind of dabbling in different, like, modern art, old art, strip art, different things? Or was it kind of like, this is my silo, this is what I do? Did you see anything in there that was kind of like, this is a guy that's embracing the new, has the old? Like, I don't think there's any evolution with this.
No, it felt like being on the floor at New York or pardon my child, he's out of his head, as he always is on Saturday night.
Sorry, I thought that was metaphorical.
It felt like the con floor, in certain regards in Chicago, where you stumble across, like, I don't know if it's nostalgic investments or whatever it is, there's all the old guard pages lined up with, golden age, silver age stuff. And, it's not to shit on it. All that stuff's amazing, but it didn't feel like there was a real mesh of the old and the new per se.
No.
It felt segregated a bit in that way, like the con floor can be at times. I can't comment on it too much because I wasn't on it that long, but that is kind of how you felt. And James, were you perusing through it today at all?
Actually, yes, I was. I picked up a piece, a Lee Weeks Wolverine splash from the main run.
I saw that one. That was good.
Awesome.
But fairly inexpensive. I wasn't looking to do any major investments. I bought a couple larger pieces recently. But one of the things I wanted to comment on that's kind of flowing into when you see the division between old and new and everything. One of the themes that I've heard a lot of the forums was, there's not enough new blood in the industry, or excuse me, in the hobby, right?
Yeah.
We need more new blood, more new blood. But then on the flip side, there's this barrier of entry for new blood.
Yeah.
You got the old guard that could be more of an and this is not an old man, old guard, old thing bashing. It's just, my experience, but they can be more of an ambassador to those people that are looking into the hobby. And a lot of them
resource.
are. Yeah. A lot of them are. But, a lot of them, don't take that line. So if you're saying the hobby eventually is going to crash because the new blood's not coming in, but you guys have seen prices of comic art, that ain't happening anytime soon.
And it's shifting away from the stuff that they're collecting, right? Like you're seeing the 25-year rule that you were mentioning. It's the Larson, the McFarlane, like we're moving into that era because the prices have skyrocketed. So that means the people that are coming in that can afford that are, they're successful people, they're smart people, they're doctors, they're dentists, they're really successful people. So what's material to them versus what was material 30 years ago, and vilifying their decision on, CGC, I don't think is doing them any favors.
No.
So I don't know what's the point of trying to. Okay, so I want to bring up something today that happened on CGC, and this is okay. Ding ding ding.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it's what's important to you, right? Like giant size X-Men for 120 grand. That's a statement piece. Because I don't have that in my collection, does it mean that it's garbage? No, right? So why would you voice about it? So we have a friend that bought a Jack Kirby piece, and there's some controversy around it because it was later in Jack's life, and they were thinking that he was being assisted in creating it, and it's Tales of Suspense, the Iron Man cover recreation. And on CGC, there was a deliberate post, almost to create doubt around it, even though you have an auction house, even though you have Providence, and even though it's passed hands a few times, like it's no big deal. Whoever owns it can just believe that it is what everybody says it is. But they start this argument and start picking apart about why it might be fake and why he didn't do it. And this is like a guy that has spent 5 figures to get this piece, that's put it in auction, probably to put it back in the market. And like that kind of attitude is not going to help anything. Like that is, I don't know, that really bothers me. Like, what do you think about that?
I think the form, this is not a CGC bashing time, but
I think the CGC would be upset to know that they're not going to grow because the group that's in there is making it impossible for new people to feel comfortable.
I think it's so hard to generate a new topic that when a new topic comes in, they're pile on the new topic and try to create almost a soap opera effect just to have something to
for their own entertainment. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I've looked at a lot of those threads and I've laughed and been angry, but
and that's why original art is different, because it's competitive too, right? Like you're dealing with the one of one. It's not a statue that 9 other people have that can kind of develop a common value for. So you get people that campaign against it, they're hitting you right in your pocketbook. Yeah. And like you're spending your time trying to financially injure me. Like I'd be really fucking pissed.
Well, it can affect a significant amount of the sell value.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think doing that right around the auction, I just think it's poor move. I think Jack is about to breathe fire on cam.
I'll show a couple more pieces real quick. So this is a recent acquisition, and this is an example of a modern art that actually meant quite a bit to me. So.
Oh yeah, that was cool. That story is cool.
Yep. So what this is the double splash for Venom #6, Volume 3, and this is where Eddie and Venom, or Eddie Brock and the symbiote, become Venom again for the first time in since 2007. So, right now Venom is one of the Marvel's hottest characters. Cates and Segment have taken and run with it and have made it that property. But one of the reasons why it's been the hottest, well, because they're talented, but it's also because Eddie and Venom, are the symbiote again. So this was done by Gerardo Sandoval. He was doing most of the artwork on the Volume 3 run, and he's done a lot of the artwork on Venom and Spider-Man and everything since then. And when this issue came out, I hit him up on Facebook right away. He wouldn't sell it. I actually kind of tell you how you get networked with artists. I did a commission with him, bought another piece. Actually, that's right there on my wall. It's one of my earliest pieces. I have it framed, and just kept the dialogue and literally had it on my calendar to hit him up every 6 months to see if he would sell it.
Wow.
And so finally, I was like, it's COVID-19. Maybe he wants to sell it. And so hit him up. He's like, all right, I'm ready to go ahead and get it sold. So double splash, in your face. I try, if I'm going to buy modern art, I try to find modern art that has some story significance if I can. And this is, one of those pieces.
Yeah. So question for you, knowing that networking and relationships are key to finding this stuff. So you had a relationship with the artist that you spent time on to develop. What do you think is the most important relationship to finding key pieces? Is it with an artist? Is it with another collector? Is it just being aware of the market? Like, what?
Yeah, that's a good. I guess it depends on what you're trying to collect, right? If it's modern art, building the relationship with the artist or with the dealer, right?
Or outside of the rep, right? So you go to Inky Knuckles Arts direct, and then hope that they decide to cut Cam in.
Well, no, I mean, even Bill.
I'm joking.
I said both the rep too because
I'm joking.
If you're a fan of a lot of the artists that Cam reps or one of the other dealers that are modern that are putting out art that's current, you can get first pick of the litter, so to speak. Sometimes you can get noticed when art's dropping. Especially if you're a good repeat customer, and that's any industry. That's just not art. But they take care of the people that take care of them.
Yep.
I remember when Stegman was with before the dealer he's with. That person would let me know of Stegman's work weeks in advance. And I had a huge Ryan Stegman collection that I actually sold most of it to Paul P.
Wow.
So he keeps everything up.
I want to comment on O's post down below. And yes, I understand that the community is very important to understanding what a piece is. But I think there's something a little bit more deliberate to entertainment in somebody suffering that I think is a negative thing that we don't need.
When the CGC boards turn into, when it's that toxic Twitter mentality just to shit on someone's parade.
Yeah. Like for information purposes is a great concept. Like the community has been huge in helping me with an issue, but there's something else when you're just like, I have no evidence of this. This is my opinion. And you get all your toxic Avengers jumping on.
I'll say their topic on new collectors, that thread, it's solid.
Is it?
Yeah. And they're actually, if you post in the new thread, like that thread, your questions, like I posted my newbie dumbass questions, and I had no issue there. It's when you start getting into the weeds and a lot of the other topics, you get a lot of the back and forth dynamic that I'm personally not attracted to, but some people kind of like the drama.
So go ahead.
Well, it wasn't CGC, it was CAF, but that deliberate attack without any
like just trying to make somebody's they feel really positive about it, and you're trying to tell them like you should feel dumb, like the Jim Lee commission thing. Like a guy was so happy with it, and you had people telling him that it was a total waste of money. I'm like, why do that?
Oh, that was, oh my god.
That'll turn me off.
So the other interesting thing is everybody's an adult, right? So it's up to you to decide to take it personally or even give a shit what other people think. So when somebody approaches you and they put themselves in a, victim position, should you feel accountable to tell them that they're wrong. And with this, I want James to tell us about the greatest art trade of all time.
Yeah, that actually elevated my collection. So it still shocks me today. Excuse me, guys. So again, I mentioned that I bought art for my wall. And after I bought a lot of Rob Gilroy art, I found a guy named Clayton Crane, who's a master painter, right? He does beautiful painted covers. And I bought a whole bunch of his painted covers. One of the covers that I bought was a 5-cover connecting Venomverse. It was 6 feet long.
It's in Tom's Fish collection, Cam, if you want to go see it.
Now. And of course, his collection is ridiculous, but
top 5.
He bought it off HA when the guy put it on HA. So, not naming any names, but this person reached out to Clayton Crane directly, wanting to buy it. And of course, I already purchased it, so he got him connected with me, and he goes, "Hey, can I buy it?" And I'm like, "No." One of the nice things about the hobby is it's one of one, right? So if I don't want to sell it, there's nothing.
I'll make you a print.
Yeah. And so he goes, "What if I traded you some art?" I'm like, "Well, what are you looking to trade?" And so he gave me a list. It was 2 McFarlane Wolverine pages. It was 2 Michael Golden pages, the Punisher cover I still have, and a Cole cover I have, and a Biz old 90s Daredevil painting, and we put it all together, and it was like $55,000 worth of art for this.
2 McFarlane Wolverine splashes, not interiors.
They were gorgeous.
2 Michael Golden covers, Punisher Warzone and a Call the Conqueror.
Yep.
And a Simon Bisley painted Daredevil cover.
Yep. No, work. It was a work. It wasn't a cover, but it was part of it is a portfolio piece. And
for a connecting Clayton Crane Venom.
Yep, and 2 other Clayton covers. So value-wise, by the way, this was when I was new in my career and in the hobby. Value-wise, it was double, easy, triple even, right? And what's funny is I still remember this. I emailed him back. It says, "Those Wolverines are nice, but can I get that Spider-Man McFarlane cover instead?" He replied back, "No." Why not? One of the splashes I tried to get, no, it wasn't the cover. It was a splash that had Spider-Man and Wolverine giant splash that it sold for $90,000 a couple years ago.
Oh man,
he wouldn't give it to me. But so what I've basically done is I've cashed out a lot of those pieces, and so my entire hobby has actually been funded by house money. So I'm just working with house money. I've got a set budget.
And you were new. Like, this was a newbie. Yeah. And he's not new.
Yeah.
So you were the greatest salesman of all time. I would have bought all my khakis from you when you were working at the Gap.
J.C. Penney when I was in college.
Okay.
Yeah. They're bankrupt now. So that's actually how I've funded a lot of my. Well, I can fund the hobby. It's just I've been working financial discipline, right? Maybe, and that's one of the things that is pretty important. I put a little bit of money every month into a pot, just a little bit, but then I use that money to buy, sell, etc. And so either I save up or I sell pieces, and I've just been working through that.
So James, you said you've only been to 2 cons?
Yeah, Dallas and LA Con where I met Rob.
Oh, nice. So,
what costume did you wear?
Yep.
Sailor Moon. It was Sailor Moon, wasn't it?
So,
anyway.
Yeah, just
the discipline to put some money away into the pot that you're going to take money for. I've never done it. I've only been to New York once, but I wish I had done it prior to that show, because I remember that was New York 2018, and there was so much amazing art to be had at that show if you were coming in with 5 or 10 grand to spend, which is
with the feeling of limited opportunity too, right?
Yeah,
especially cash is king, or a lot of those old school dealers, and they don't know. Spencer Beck, who still uses AOL webpage or something like that, right?
Dial up.
And not Spencer Beck, but cash is king. You know,
So what did you collect before art?
I had some slab books, some Walking Dead stuff, some Transformers and everything. But
Did those habits help with the way that you collect this?
nope.
Okay.
No segue there, Ryan.
Whatever. Yams.
All right, last couple, and then so this is a recent one.
Oh shit! You saw that statue I sent you? That new statue that came out of that cover.
So this is Batman Who Laughs one-off by Jason Fabok. And, Batman Who Laughs has probably been one of the most overused, but also one of the most, from an exposure standpoint, DC villain in the recent history. And so this is probably his most iconic image. If you guys haven't read that one-off, it is not light reading. It's one of the more disturbing books of how Batman became the Batman Who Laughs and where he went from there. So I was able to pick this up from a mutual friend of Ryan and mine when he moved from DC collecting to Marvel, and it's part of my permanent connection.
So this is like, this character is probably, they've tried new, like Hush was probably the last one that they'd really tried to push that didn't work, but Batman Who Laughs is almost like the new, this era's Bane, right?
No, it's like he won Villain of the Year for DC last year, via Van.
In the US. Cam won it in Canada.
That's the stash, right? So just something I picked up recently.
And so is this, you're not a Batman Who Laughs collector, you just like, this has significance, you like this, you identified that, and you like the story?
Yeah, like I didn't read DC Metal until afterward. Somebody gave me that book as a recommendation, and it was disturbing. And the character to me was extremely interesting on, what would Batman do with his technology, his intelligence, and his skill with no morals.
So like Red Sun Superman almost-ish, right? Yeah,
exactly. And apparently he does a lot of evil shit. So
no way.
Yeah.
Like, then why would he make that visor?
The visor is actually made of dark metal, whatever comic trope you want. It allows him to see like the emotional character of people. So he can see through the visor. And plus it's spikes on his head.
I thought it was like homage to like somebody's armband tattoo of barbed wire or something like that.
Yeah, looks like Judge Death, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all right, this is the last one. Oh, this is my favorite piece. That Chew piece is my most personal one, but this would be my favorite piece. I mentioned it.
Oh shit!
I had that one queued up. I figured that might be one.
So this is Wolverine '93 by Adam Kubert. This is one of the ones I remember as a kid, and this is Wolverine just staring down Juggernaut. And I would say one of the best flashes from Wolverine run out there. It's been, he's used the image over and over again. It's popped up over and over again. When I went to, I mentioned my con in New Orleans, and that's where I got that print and had him sign it.
That's cool. And did you get this? Did you get this from him directly?
I did. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Khalil, KG, or
awesome guy. Yep.
Kay Guerin on CAF. He comments he comments on everyone's pieces. That's another way to network, by the way. If you comment on people's CAF work over and over again, I mean, not cheesy wise, legitimately.
Like, I'd like to see you naked. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's another way to start networking, right? Because they're like, oh, okay, this guy likes my art. And if you want to buy a piece from that person later, like, there's kind of like at least a friendly understanding or a familiar, familiarity to it. Oh, this is getting heavy.
That's a great piece. So, from your understanding,
me too.
Where would you think Adam places the role of a collector in, like how does Adam treat a collector?
Sure. So the Cuberts, infamously, kind of like Capullo and a lot of artists, I mean, they don't need the money. I mean, Adam's and Andy's dad was a famous comic artist. They have the Cubert School, which is, the art school. And so, they're well off. And I'm not saying they're, it's an elitist that they don't need the money. They don't. They're established in their lives. And so, they feel their art has a certain value, and it's not cheap. And they make that collector, if you really want this piece, you're going to have to pay for it. And for better or worse, some collectors do, some don't. If you notice, there's not a lot of Cubert art on CAF because most of it they've kept. And if you want them to release that art, there's a price tag associated with it.
So do you think that they understand what it's worth? So they're entertaining, like they're being positive. It's a positive relationship. They will talk to you as a collector because they know if you are a dick or if you are unapproachable, that you don't have that opportunity. Like, do you think that they value the role of the collector in, the whole scheme of things?
I think they're insulated though, because they work through the rep. But they're very, very, welcoming at cons. When I showed him, there's another piece I have of Cubert. It's a big XMen splash. And, he actually wanted to talk about it for a while. And he's like, man, I remember that splash. And then when I told him I own that Wolverine piece, man, he was kind of taken back, very appreciative. But, if I'm going to look in the future of a lot of Cubert work, they have plans of opening a museum, an art museum dedicated to their dad. And so I can see a lot of their work that they own. Because Adam, a couple months ago, found the page where Wolverine popped his bone claws for the first time.
Right. Just found it. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the work is actually going to go in the museum. So, it might even be harder to get in the future.
So, that's a question I don't know about. Like, how much value is their original art versus the way that they're compensated at all? Like, does it matter? Like, if you own Staples and you hit it big, you're like, whatever. I don't give a shit about somebody that wants art.
Well, the reason this one got let go, it was timing. Adam, I think, was looking to buy a house in New York. And so, it's an easy way. Let me just sell a few pages I got, and there's my down payment. Or a few more, and there's my house. So he knows what his art can get. To an extent, he prices it high.
So question for Cam is, do your artists understand the role of the collector? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know if they are respected, if they mean anything other than just a wallet, or if it's really...
Yeah, our group, for the most part, we're a mix of established guys and guys coming up. But
like I won't make you cross the line with your own people. Let's talk about experiences that you've heard about or whatever.
I find the outliers are the guys that treat collectors as a wallet, as just cash and a check. And those guys, I won't name names, I've heard about from other artists who are disgusted with his behavior. And I think for most of the artists, the good people are good people, but some of these artists are appalled by this behavior of other artists. I think, and I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of these guys, it was their lifelong dream to be a comic artist, work for Marvel, work for DC, draw Wolverine, draw Batman, draw your own books, whatever it was. So I feel like in my experiences, when I've gotten to know people on a more personal level, it's been that of appreciation of the collector. But that's evolving as well, because prices, market, at some point you have to value your own art, so you're not falling behind. You have to, you have to set your market. You have to make what you're worth to keep up with what's going on, because for years it was just $100 commissions at cons, $250 studio pieces that take 100 hours to do. And even when I started collecting, that there was still a lot of that going on, and that's it's not fair for the artist. It's not fair. Not just even if you look at it on an hourly rate, it's not fair that they've worked their entire lives to hone their craft to this very special thing, because commission collecting, original art collecting is a very special thing. There is no other industry where you can go up to the top of that industry and get something personal from them. Like, are you going to go up to an actor and say, "Hey, can you act for me? Like, can you perform this thing that I love for me?"
Can he dance to Cisco again one last time?
You can get, can't you get Jordan shoes that he puked on though?
Yeah.
Well, but
so
it just,
my question is, like, there are rags to riches stories. You see that, but when you go from the rags to the riches, do you think that there is a requisite respect now that they've had that trying to earn it gone by? I can think of a few examples of people being genuine through the whole process, but I feel like it's very common that once a level of success is achieved, it is like, whatever. I know that there's going to be another guy behind you. I don't give a shit about what you think. And I'm seeing that with a bunch of artists, right? There's there's a lot of exceptions, and those are the ones that you end up talking to the most. But I'm seeing behavior with, I'm going to do what I can to try and survive. But once that switch flips, it's like, okay, nerd, next.
I think, the ones on the top of their game, I guess there's exceptions to the rule or stuff. I think the prices that they're getting, I think they're humbled by it. Like the very, very top ones.
Yeah.
Like somebody's willing to pay $10K, $15,000, $20,000 for this thing I drew.
Yeah.
And it's for something that I produced. So I actually, maybe your experience is different than mine. I've seen the humility.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, my question is, what do you think is kind of, more typical, I guess? I don't know. I'm like, obviously we have a bunch of different directions, but there's times where it's been surprising, and it's kind of like, I'm coming to you. I value what you do. I obviously do, because I'm coming to you. And lots of times it's coming first. And then once a certain level hits, it's almost like, yeah, thanks, but whatever. I got shit to do. I'm the artist. You're the guy that gives me the money to do my thing.
I think that the jackasses get the most noise. I think from an industry perspective, I think most of our artists respect their fans, personally.
Yeah, well, I respect you, James. So, as you being a fan of me, I'd like to think that you are getting a good deal.
I'm more than a fan.
Why not? Yeah, it's a good point. I think the toxicity that flows through the hobby, whether it's artists and collectors, it feels like it digs a little deeper, because it's just like the hobby. We love this stuff so much. The wins are so much, high. The highs are high and the lows are low, and the toxic is extremely toxic.
Yeah.
I find personally, and I think it is just that passion we have as collectors, because even for artists too, and I'll speak on behalf of a few of our guys. Like, I'll bring up Ryan's example with Matt Allison, and Ryan dropped a joke in the chat that Matt spelt Secret Wars wrong, and Matt had done the Doom recreation, the Secret Wars recreation. It's an incredible piece, and yeah, like not my biases aside, it's an incredible piece, and Matt's an incredible artist, an incredible guy. He was mortified. Like he took that very personally, that he fucked that up for a collector who paid good money for a piece. And so I talked to him later, or we talked after, and no, Ryan's just messing with you. But
isn't there a famous Michael Golden commission with some screwed up lettering or something?
Oh yeah, spelled his name wrong.
Infamous Michael Golden commission. I'll say, anyone in the chat, dude, if you wanted to drop a calf link, we'll pull it up too.
Well, and Reba, if you're still there, I have a picture to show you that you're going to be. I have a whip to show you that I haven't sent to you yet. I don't know if she's still on.
And to temper everything, we are three very sensitive sales guys that have to deal with people on a daily basis. So maybe, and we're on the purchasing side this time. Like we flipped. So
but
it's
it sucks. The toxicity sucks. No matter how you slice it, if even if it's something you're inherently against, or if it's something you have a strong opinion on for whatever reason, bringing that in unnecessarily, it's horseshit. What? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you got to do that? And I think, just don't shit on someone for promoting something they like. Don't try and make someone feel stupid.
Yeah, it takes a lot to expose yourself and be vulnerable these days, right? Like we know that people are typically shitty when you throw it out there. So you're sharing something that, has emotional value to you. And if you don't do that very often and somebody's negative towards that, then you get revenge factor there.
It kills me. It's art, right? I mean, who defines? I mean, you could say the market defines, right? But personally, who defines what's art? Speaking of like a piece I wanted to see if I'd show that one.
Oh yeah, so right. That is.
I mean, that's art.
Beautiful, right? Yeah.
It's mass. Oh man, I'm not gonna do that. You can pull that up on CAF.
It's your hat, right? Your hat.
Yeah, right. So that was a piece I got from an Indian artist. It was a Jean Grey cover, and how I got it, I saw the comic cover, and it was one of the most beautiful comic covers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I thought it was digital. And then one day he posted it on CAF for sale. It took me 4 seconds to hit him up and get it. So it's an artist. He's famous in India, but probably nobody knows who Mukesh Singh is, right? And this is one that piece behind me is one I would never sell because the artistic value to me will be more than I could ever get for it as far from a price perspective.
There's more involved than just how it looks. Yeah.
And the detail's phenomenal. It's absolutely giant. And it's, that you can't tell me because since the artist isn't really that known that piece doesn't have value. Yeah. It's got value to me because it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's, that's the thing I think that isn't understood with a lot. There's layers to collecting, right? Like it's in addition to the way it looks. It's your relationship with the artist. It's how you got it, where it came from. Like it's a lot of different things that goes into this that makes it valuable to you personally. And, that could be a hot dog down a hallway. But if that meant something to you, well, I think that's perfect. That's great.
You can pay $100 for a banana on a wall, right?
Yeah.
A hot dog down a hallway.
Hey, show the published cover on that. You got that?
Yeah. Here, I'll
so
pull it up here.
How many pieces do you think you have in your collection, James? Like, how active are you right now?
I go fits and spurts. I've got about around 60 pieces, all in.
Do you typically go published only? Do you commissions very rare?
I have 2 commissions working. I don't like commissions because I'm a very impatient individual.
Okay.
I
know when we went on our first date, there was some demands.
We didn't get through dinner. So when I commission, this is one of the things is when I commission an artist, and I have a set expectation of timeline. How long this commission is going to take, and I'll bake in a very, very conservative timeline. I'll bake in milestones because we mentioned I'm in sales. The sales that I'm in is high or very, very solution and customer focused, and so I'm held to a standard that I expect if I commission an artist, they're held to the same standard.
Yeah.
And so when I commission an artist and he tells me it's going to take 3 months to complete a work, and it takes a year and a half, that turns me off.
Yeah,
and that's happened a couple times. And
thank you and then move on. It may be repeatability because like artists aren't accountants either. Like you give them some rope, obviously, right?
I give them if an artist tells me 3 months, I expect at least double.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with that. And honestly, depending on the artist, if he told me a year and it took 2 years, okay. But if you don't tell me 3 months and take a year and a half, that's my challenge.
And especially if you feel like you're being disrespected during that communication.
And
like he feels like he's just like, yeah, we'll get back to you. You're like, okay.
and you want to send that email so bad.
Yeah, I'm going to show you the Steven in my Siegel.
So
James' guide to commissions are you establish a framework right away. Like what else can you give advice to new collectors?
Sure. Firstly, expectations. Like I come to the understanding of the expectations up front. And I make sure the artist is okay with the expectations. If it's if the character that I'm doing or the concept I'm doing, if they're not comfortable with it, just let me know. Right. And by the way, I treat them like $1 million. I mean, I'm their customer, but in essence, they're kind of my customer too, because I got to wait for this process.
Sales guy's personality, we're not used to it.
I know. And and then financial expectations. And as long as those milestones are met, and I ask them, here's my conservative valuation time frame. Here's how I'd like to contact you on an ongoing basis. Are you comfortable with me shooting you an email once a month just to check in when you hit your milestones? I mean, because this is what I do every day on a business side, right?
Yeah.
And most artists are cool with it.
I don't think there's a lot of sales guys in our profession that are collecting at this level, right? So this is great tips for guys that are typically just, I answer the phone and my opinion is what garners me my income. Like this is new to a lot of people that may be buying 5-figure art, right?
I agree. And well, the other thing too is since it's one of one, it's a commission. You're kind of selling yourself to that artist too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a dick to them and unearned.
Yep.
Unearned dick. But
like if you're not going to repeat, you're not going to repeat, but you still have invested in this piece. Yeah.
Really put his heart into it. Really draw you the best character and the best cover quality commission that he can. If he knows that he's giving it to someone he doesn't like, and it's not fair, but it's reality.
Yep. Yeah. It's true. They got you, right? Like it's the way that it works. Like there's a lot of pay after completions, but if you've spent the time to go to this artist for this type of piece, they decide what kind of piece they want to make. They give you their best. They give you the middle. They give you like, I'm going to do this while I eat my 6th bowl of golden grams and watch Cam dance to Beyonce,
The compliments, Dylan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're ranting. I don't know. Nobody's asking any questions. Is there anybody left?
There's a few. This was a insightful chat. It's gone a little different direction. I think Ryan talked earlier this week, and we may have had an artist on, may not have, but it ended up just being collecting focused. And James, it's really good. I appreciate you showing your collection. I haven't had as much time to peruse CAF lately. I've admired your the Juggernaut piece, especially. That's one I've been going back to quite a bit, but it's fun to hear some insight that is beyond. This was our first really collecting centric show, so it was great.
So I came in. I had Cam to rely on. James did this all by himself, and like I've relied on James already and the way that he approaches things. And when you're spending emotional dollars, the network is the most important thing you can have, right? You need somebody that can reason with. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, yeah. So
I was going to say one neat little thing that we have going is so we set up. I chat with a lot of other collectors on Facebook Messenger, right? So what happened was I was chatting with Rizvi or something. He's a collector. And then I was chatting with our good friend Ed in France, and then I wanted him to meet, so we became a little chat group. And then Kay Garon, Paul P was part of the original one. I kept bringing these people in, and then we have a group chat of 10 people We call it OAOGs, like original gangsters. It's a play because we're all newbies. We're really not original anything. And we've been Ryan's part of the chat group, and we've been talking to each other for a good 2 years now, ongoing on this chat group.
Yeah.
And there's 10 Collect Dicky, is on there too, and we get a lot
like I said,
of
like I introduced you to Josh. Like you end up getting connected, and these are one of the only things outside of the major things in life with your family where it's just like purely for fun, purely for nostalgic investment, and it's it can be big dollars. And sometimes even though you're not supposed to, there's a little bit of investment in it too, right? Like, am I buying something that I know I'll never get my money back on, right?
Yeah. No.
So
you get around.
So Dylan asked that question down there, ethical markup for reselling a piece. I think that unless you've had that piece for years, I think you should expect 60 cents on the dollar, no matter what it is. I guarantee you that nobody values that piece as much as you do. Because
and the flip side of that, if someone's approaching you and it's an unsellable or one you weren't planning on selling, there's a premium to that.
Yeah.
So nothing drives me more crazy than when someone comes to me and wants a piece of art of mine that I love, that I don't want to sell, and their offer is like market value. Like, and sometimes you're trying to determine what the market value is, but
or even below it, because they want to try and flip it.
Well, and that's the thing. If it's a deliberate attempt to lowball you on a piece you're not actively selling and you don't want to sell, it's that nothing pisses me off more than that, because it's like
there's one thing when you ask them, hey, what are you offering, and they say, and they don't even give you a dollar amount. They say, what do you think it's worth, or something like that.
Yeah. Like there's like it's psychological at that point. But I think that if you're under $2,000, expect to get your money back, something around that. But once you kind of go outside of that, like some will overpay if it's nostalgic, but they're going to give you the offer, right? Like you're not going to mark it up. Like you're not going to give them a price and they're going to agree to it very often.
Yeah.
If you're approached, it's one thing. If you're trying to sell it, it's another. If you're trying to sell it, I say expect half, especially if it's newer or modern art. And we're going to see a great example of it with, there was a collector that bought a whole bunch of Felix art. It's fairly recent. It's all in a June-focused auction. We're going to see how the market values that outside of like the instant panic. You don't get it now, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
What is a CFA APA? And you guys know?
Certified fucking awesome. Ask people about me.
It was a good try.
That's one group. I'm not in that one. I think that it's an older. I think Keith is in that group. They write about the hobby, but it's a lot of the older guard. Like he's considered a new introduction to it. I don't know very much about it. Like Jason might be able to comment on it. He's just late to the party, but yeah, it's this is a tough thing to do and be 100% smart about if you're casual with it. Like you have to be really invested or have a great network if you want to participate in this hobby and know that you're always getting a good deal. So
flip side, find some art that looks good to you, meet your budget.
Yeah.
Throw it on your wall.
Who gives a shit?
See what happens.
Yeah.
Well,
it's amazing how that.
Yeah. When all original. Oh yeah, Rich clarified there for us. But yeah, buying what you love is still, I think, the core of this whole thing. So,
but there's a weird addiction with collecting. Like you buy what you love, but feeding the fire, feeding the beast, you're feeding it with something you love. It's just depends on situations at the time. Like,
and when you get certain dollar amounts, and it's different for every person. But people say, well, but why would you? I agree. You have to love the art. But when the money is financially significant to what your lifestyle is, future consideration is a part of it.
Yep. Yeah. And there's places where if you're just too excited and you're going to be a victim, you will overpay, and you have to be comfortable with losing money with what you spend.
Yep. like I said, a lot of my art would have been money lost, and then I got that deal or that trade. It's probably not par for the course.
But it's like gambling. You always like to talk about your wins.
All right.
But you win all the time.
Oh,
Like you are a professional gambler in this hobby.
I got to show you this. Just to, I know I have the Chew 1 cover, and I have a lot of Chew art, but to show that I'm a true Chew fan, I've got the Chog. I've got the stuffed Poyo.
Nice.
That is you nailed it. There is not unequivocally number one.
See this?
Have you licked it?
Oh,
Well, guys,
yeah,
go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, like, you've learned a lot, Cam, too. Like, even going through this process with changing collector demographic, like it's amazing how quick you can go from like a $2,000 piece is going to be the most I'll ever spend to that's my monthly time payment for the next 10 years.
Well, I had one of those moments. It wasn't anywhere near on that level that James had with the trade that funded his collection. But at one point in time, I think it was Saturday at Emerald City. This was 2012, maybe. I got on Humberto Ramos's list for a full piece, 11 by 17. I think at the time it was like $700. And I don't know if I got the only one at that show or whatever, because he does a ton of like $200-300 pieces, or he did at that time. And so I got it, this incredible Mary Jane piece. It was really casual, like bright blue eyes, and it's just really soft, subtle piece. And I loved it. It was great. So it was $700, and up to that point, I'd spent $750 a bunch, but I don't even think I'd crossed that $1,000 threshold yet. Mm-hmm. So when a guy reached out to me, he kept bugging me on CAF. He said, "What do you want for it?" I said, "Well, I'm not really selling. Like I hadn't exchanged those big dollars at all." And I think he offered me $3,500 for it. And, no brainer at the time. I had nothing in my collection worth more than $700. So $3,500, and it bought me, I got a Delato painting out of it. I got a Sean Gordon Murphy piece out of it. And I got another big commission out of it I love this piece, but it did fund all these bigger pieces for me at the time. And it's a much smaller scale, but you got to take those wins when you can get them.
It's not your permanent connection or collection. Yeah, I was gonna say, take those big wins.
And understand that your tastes will change. Yep.
Yeah, my last plug for the people listening to you, if you don't know, this is a fighting chicken cybernetic thing that actually took on the devil and beat hell. So that's my last plug.
And Poyo was kind of a side character. Then he got his own series. It's been so long since I read Chew, but I love it. I think Ryan lent me all the trades, or half of the trades, because I was collecting floppies too at the time that you were, James. So I don't have the trades. So Ryan, I'll get those back to you when I read them at some point.
I bet.
On a stack of your books right now.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably good, guys. We've been trying to keep these a little leaner and meaner. Still have a hard time keeping Ryan's losing teeth now. That's how long.
I'm fighting on Twitter right now.
What's funny is I'm in Oklahoma and he looks like the hick.
Well,
I got some things to say to you, James.
Okay, it's nothing but love. All right, thank you. I appreciate it jumping on here. So didn't say anything that's going to ruin my career. Didn't say anything that's going to get me canceled on Twitter. So we're good.
Well, we'll edit it and cut it so there's a bunch of controversy.
I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, James. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone who came on. That was a great chat. I'm really enjoying just spending the Saturday nights with everybody and just bullshitting about art, collecting. And we can all learn stuff. Even tonight, There's lots of stuff to be learned from new collectors, old collectors, and don't be an asshole in the hobby. This is
Very
the moral
often.
story.
There's times to do it, but
Yeah, there
not
is.
to good people.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And
So-
hang around for the after party, James.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm need another drink, so take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.